Hey guys, welcome back to Slightly Twisted Female. I'm your host, Brittany Rue. So I kind of fucked off for too long today and didn't start this stream early enough. So I'm probably gonna have to split it up into two parts, but I wanted to kind of go over something that I found on YouTube, and it is by Vice News, which is sort of like a leftist, it's like a liberal news media outlet. I think it's like an independent outlet. And it is called Trans Kids in Texas Are Scared They'll Be Taken from Their Parents. And this is in response to the Texas bill that basically requires that any parent who is found medically transitioning their child or putting a minor through gender medicine, whether it's puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, double mastectomy, whatever, should be investigated by the Department of Human Services, and also known as DHS, or Children, Youth, and Families. So let's take a look. Let's just jump right into this.
You play with the chickens. Don't act like a princess that you are. Come on.
Okay, but what if I don't want to touch disgusting dead worms today?
So it's just funny that we're already with the sort of gendered performance, right? It's ooh, yucky. I don't want to touch that. And it's just interesting that this child already has this idea of these sort of like sexist stereotypes, that, oh, girls think that worms are yucky, and ooh, I don't want to touch it, and is putting on, again, stereotypical female clothing. And it's so we'll watch this child. This child has actually spoken in front of legislators, seems to have a really kind of codependent, the mother has a codependent relationship with this child. It's really sad. And it's really interesting to sort of watch this child's behavior, and just even, as a mother of four, I have two girls and two boys. All four of them have such unique personalities, different ranges of, I guess, gender conformity. And this behavior is not normal. It's not, it's just the sort of like, even the child is speaking in this sort of like high-pitched, squeaky voice. Nothing about this feels like the child is just being their authentic self. And it's amazing to see a child this young, I think he's 10, doing such a gendered performance. And clearly being, coached along by the parent and the adults around him, and, being celebrated for his performance.
Egg! Shut up! Y'all are so loud.
Got it?
Yeah, got it.
And one thing I can say is, again, and I have two girls, they're younger, and my one daughter is like super quote unquote girly. She loves all of like the Disney princesses. She loves dresses from the time she was a baby. And even before she could speak, she would point to which clothes she wanted. I would try to put her in something and she would fuss. And then if it's like I've picked out the like dress or the pink or the sparkly thing, she loved it. And she used to love. It's really interesting how like kind of early on, and then my other daughter wasn't as like that. She's into like Paw Patrol and doggies and stuff like that. But even my like more quote unquote girly daughter, both of them love digging in the mud. Both of them love getting dirty, playing outside, being kids. She isn't speaking in like a frou-frou frilly way. They're still just natural, right? And it's just sad just to see the level of self-awareness that this child already has. Yeah.
Okay. Juliet doesn't like me.
She doesn't. She likes me, though.
Oh, hush.
We first met Kai when she was just 5 years old, living in a conservative suburb of Houston.
So this child has known that they were trans since at least preschool, right? And that's been supported by the parents around him since before he even entered grade school.
My mom thought I was a boy and dressed me like a boy. I did not like it, and I already thought she knew I was a girl, but she didn't know, so I had to tell her when I was old enough to say it.
For nearly 2 years, Kai's mom, Kimberly Shapley, fought their local school board so that Kai could use the girls' bathroom.
The suicide rate for a transgender youth is 41%. That is why we are fighting so adamantly for these children.
So this is a throwback. So this is the mother going to the school board when the child was 5. So it had to have been earlier that they decided that this child was trans, because at 5 years old, they're already inviting, Vice News into their home to have access to their child, to interview the child, and they're already, decided up, this is who my child is. They must be with girls, telling the school that this is a, little girl. And it seems like, again, the child seems to equate the desire to wear dresses and gender nonconforming clothing with actually being a girl, which, we know is so common. And it seems like the mother has very much made this such a big part of her identity, is, crusading on behalf of her child. And I think the most heartbreaking part is how much the child clearly is exposed to a lot of these arguments and this awareness of like the political turmoil, and how well versed the child is in these discussions that really should be between adults.
Kimberly lost that battle. And in 2018, she moved her family to Austin, where she hoped Kai would be safe.
What is a woman? Can you tell me that?
So again, safe. Safe from what exactly, right? Safe from what? So according to the mother's speech in front of the school board, she's using the suicide risk as the anchor reason as to why all these rush changes need to happen, right? And we know that there's this sort of almost like pervasive statistic that has been floated around and that is, irresponsibly retouted by the media, that there is a 41% suicide rate amongst trans identifying people. And I guess the assumption is that it's because they have not been allowed to enter the other spaces of their, identified gender or their preferred gender, right? And so she's already starting off with, again, the assumption that, my child will commit suicide and I need to keep them safe almost immediately. And it's telling other people, and again, it's this emotional blackmail that if you don't allow my child into these spaces of these other vulnerable children, and allow my child to expose themselves to these little girls, then your blood will be on your hands. My child will is at risk for committing suicide. And it is very clear that this child unfortunately has picked up that messaging. Again, how is that acceptable? Eleanor Lynn says Munchausen. Absolutely, it's Munchausen by proxy. Right, it's the mother projecting illness onto the child, and and so much of it, as we know from like Munchausen by proxy, very much wins the parent a lot of reinforcement. It wins the parent attention. They get special privileges. The community rallies around the family. The mother gets money and donations and support and attention, and the child picks up on these cues. Children are very, very perceptive. They are very aware of what is expected from them. And they will pick up those cues and they will perform. And there are always, and if you watch a lot of these interviews and these conversations between these parents and these trans kids, you see the parent signaling to the child. You see as the child stays on script, the mother is kind of smiling and, yeah, that's right, honey. When the child kind of goes off script, they'll furrow their brow and be like, oh, well, is that what you really mean, honey? And you can see the way in which, without even explicitly conducting the child, that the body language, the tonality, the facial expressions are very much playing in the background and acting as a conductor for the child. And the child is always checking back at the parent. Like, is this good? Is this right? Was this what I was supposed to say? Am I doing a good job? And you even have these biased media outlets that when they're interviewing the child, it's so clear that the story has already been scripted even before they come into the home. They've already decided what is the main takeaway. It's that, trans children exist and that trans identifying children need to be given these special privileges or else they're going to die, right? And the whole purpose of the interview from that moment on is to just extract that story, right? They're not looking for a story. They have the story. They just need the child to follow the script.
But in late February 2022, following an opinion by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, Governor Greg Abbott ordered the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, or DFPS.
All right, I don't want to hear her interpretation. Let's just actually read this thing. So it says, Dear Commissioner Masters, consistent with our correspondence in August 2021, the Office of the Attorney General has now confirmed that the enclosed opinion that a number of so-called, quote, sex change procedures constitute as child abuse under existing Texas law, which it absolutely is, because the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, or DPFPS, is responsible for protecting children from abuse, I hereby direct your agency to conduct a prompt and thorough investigation of any reported instances of these abusive procedures in the state of Texas. As OAG opinion number KP0401 makes clear, it is already against the law to subject Texas children to a wide variety It is already against the law to subject Texas children to a wide variety of elective procedures for gender transitioning, including reassignment surgeries that can cause sterilization, mastectomies, removal of otherwise healthy body parts, and administration of puberty-blocking drugs or supraphysiologic doses of testosterone or estrogen. Licensed professionals who have direct contact with children who may be subjected to such abuse, including doctors, nurses, teachers, and provides criminal penalties for failure to report such child abuse. There are similar reporting requirements and criminal penalties for members of the general public. Texas law also imposes a duty on DFPS to investigate the parents of a child who is subjected to these abusive gender transitioning procedures, and on other state agencies to investigate licensed facilities where such procedures may occur. To protect Texas children from abuse, DFPS and all their state agencies must follow the law as explained in OAG opinion. And what I think is so interesting about this is that they're arguing that, oh, this is horrible. These kids, these are life-saving procedures. And yet when we show all of the new crop of detransitioners who are screaming at the top of their lungs, stop doing this. My life was ruined. I am sterile. I'm castrated. I'm mutilated. I'm devastated. I can't have normal sexual relationships. I can't have normal romantic relationships. I'm in pain. I am now a lifelong medical patient. I don't feel good. I feel hurt. I feel lied to. I feel tricked. Why was this allowed to happen to me? And what's the response every time? It's always, well, you knew what you were doing. Well, you had informed consent. Well, you were never trans. You were never this. You were never that. Why are those children acceptable collateral damage? What it seems like is that adults who are now fully sexually developed and influenced by a wide ranges of factors, who decide that, they want to have these cross-sex characteristics and features, and they keep thinking, man, I wouldn't have to spend all this money or do all this had I been allowed to transition early and done all these things to myself. And again, it's this very idealistic image that, oh, it would have been so much better. Additionally, here's what I believe. I believe that there are adults who have a sexual interest in transgender people, who have a sexual interest in feminized male, either children or adults, a sexual interest in female masculinized children or adults. And part of widening that pool and that availability of sexual prospects, how do we create more? We get them when they're early, we get them when they're young, and we start the process before they can consent, and we make it as though it is life or death. What we know is that rate of 41% suicide rate is not accurate. It was taken from what is now considered to be a non-reproducible study. It was like a meta-analysis. There were a lot of things that weren't taken into account, and even the authors have gone back to say that the conclusions cannot be taken as they are given. And there's actually a really good article on the history of that statistic, the 41% suicide rate, how it is basically a modern myth. It's an urban legend that's continued to be passed around and serves as the very foundation of why these are permitted to continue.
To investigate parents who support their trans kids' gender-affirming care for, quote, child abuse. The concern is that these children could be separated from their parents.
Oh my.
Gender-affirming care. Always pay attention to the language.
Gosh, I missed you guys. Good to see you, cutie.
Good to see you too.
And again, look at all the social reward that's already come just from this child being trans. The attention, the news coverage, media coming in, heralding them as heroes, and you're helping so many people. You have an identity for the mother and the child. You're important. Here, we want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. We want to give you these opportunities to speak. Here's the spotlight. And when you listen to how this interviewer talks to the child, again, you can see how it's like almost as if every single child, every single parent is involved. And again, as we know, there are now laws against challenging the notion that somebody is trans. The only thing that anyone is allowed to do around this person is to reaffirm, yes, this is correct. Yes, this is who you are. Yes. And a 10-year-old child who looks to the adults around them for a sense of reality, to ground them in what's real and what's not. And all of the adults are smiling and nodding and saying, yes, yes, this is it. This is not okay. And we'll just watch how this child performs. He absolutely is a baby. And Judy C. says adult subject matter presented to children. The amount of adult subject matter that is presented to this child, it is obscene. It's so obscene and heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And unfortunately, it always seems that it's the mother who's really commandeering this. You know, the dad is either like a limp dick dad in the background who's like, I don't know, my wife was saying this is a good idea, and we went to the gender specialist, and I don't really know. I don't really have, I'm an impotent man, and I don't really have any control over my family. I can't really make decisions, and then the mother's always like, oh, quiet down, Steven. Yes, this is what we're doing. Like, the dynamic always seems to be the same, or there's just no father at all. Then this is what happens when we have just this, like, when we neuter men. I understand it's like we got to find this balance between tempering male violence and male dominance, but then when we have such neutered beta males, and they don't know how to lead, they don't know how to do anything. They're just like, no, I guess we're gonna have to castrate my son at the age of 10. Like,
over the past few years, Kaya has become one of the most outspoken young trans activists in the U.S. In 2021, her testimony in front of the Texas State...
And this is where it gets really sinister. She's the most outspoken activist. What 11-year-old is worrying about activism? What 11-year-old even knows what's going on? That's so inappropriate. I have an 11-year-old child. Okay, I have an 11-year-old. I do my best to protect him from a lot of... He even heard what had happened with the school shooting, and I would just let him know. I was like, listen, I want you to know, all you need to know is that you're safe, that that'll never happen to you, and that there are adults that are in control and that are handling that situation, and that is not something that I want you to worry about. And if you have any questions or concerns, I want you to talk to me, and I want you to know that you can talk to me and you have other people to talk to, but I don't want you to take that on. That's not your emotional burden. And kids don't need to have access, don't need to be worried about what bills are being passed and the suicide rate. It is so inappropriate.
Senate helped stop a bill that would have criminalized gender-affirming care for minors.
I've been having to explain myself since I was 3.
This new directive is an attempt to stop trans youth from accessing medical care anyway, even though major medical associations say that care, which can be anything from puberty blockers to hormone treatments, is medically necessary.
That's funny because these totally captured institutions, let's be clear, but actually, no, they've gone, so everybody has gone on to say, we actually don't really know enough about puberty blockers. We're really just experimenting on these children. Oh gosh, guys. All right. I got started way too late on this. I got to get going. I got to go pick up my kids, but I'll finish this up maybe tonight, hopefully. So, so that was just to get us started. I didn't want to totally miss out on what was going on. So thank you. I'm so sorry, guys. And, I really appreciate you guys. We'll finish this up soon. Okay. Stay strong, stay connected, and if anybody wants to, please make sure you like the video and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And if you have any tips or anything, stories that you want to see me cover, email me at aslightlytwistedfemale@gmail.com. Anybody who would like to support the channel, my PayPal is in, and all my other links, my cashApp is in my bio. Your support really helps, and yeah. Make sure to like the video. Thank you so much, guys. I'll be back. Promise we'll finish this.